much of will is skill. When Timmy, age 4, sat down at the gray metal table in an experimental room in the basement of Stanford's psychology department, the child saw something that caught his interest. On the table was a marshmallow, the kind Timmy's mom put into his cup of hot chocolate. Timmy really wanted to eat the marshmallow. The kindly man who brought Timmy into the room told him that he had two options. The man was going to step out for a moment. If Timmy wanted to eat the marshmallow, he could eat away. But if Timmy chose to wait a few minutes until the man returned, then Timmy could eat two marshmallows. Then the man exited. Timmy stared at the tempting sugar treat, squirmed in his chair, kicked his feet, and in general tried to exercise self control. If he could wait, he'd get two marshmallows. But the temptation proved too strong for little Timmy, so he finally reached across the table, grabbed the marshmallow, looked around nervously, and then shoved the spongy treat in his mouth. Apparently, Timmy and Henry are kindred spirits. Actually, Timmy was one of dozens of subjects Dr. Miskell and his colleagues studied for more than 4 decades. Miskell was interested in learning what percentage of his young subjects could delay gratification and what impact, if any, this character trait would have on their adult lives. Miskell's hypothesis was that children who were able to demonstrate self control at a young age would enjoy greater success later in life because of that trait. In this and many similar studies, Miskell followed the children into adulthood. He discovered that the ability to delay gratification had a more profound effect than many had originally predicted. Notwithstanding the fact that the researchers had watched kids for only a few minutes, what they learned from the experiment was enormously telling. Children who had been able to wait for that second marshmallow matured into dependable and capable of dealing with fuck that. Matured into adults who were soon seen as more socially competent, self-assertive, dependable, and capable of dealing with frustrations. And they scored an average of 210 points higher on their SATs than people who gulped down the one marshmallow. The predictive power was truly remarkable. Companion studies conducted over the next decade with people of varying ages, including adults, confirmed that individuals who exercise self control achieved better outcomes than people who don't. For example, if high schoolers are good at self control, they experience fewer eating and drinking problems. University students with more self control earn better grades, and married and working people have more fulfilling relationships and better careers. And as you might suspect, people who demonstrate low levels of self control show higher levels of aggression, delinquency, health problems, and so forth. Apparently, Miskell had stumbled onto the mother lode of personality traits. Kids who had been blessed with the innate capacity to withstand short term temptations fared better throughout their entire lives. The fact that a 4-year old's one time response to a sugary confection predicts lifelong results is at once exciting and depressing, depending on whether you are a grabber or a delayer. You're either well fitted to take on the temptations of the world or doomed to a lifelong fate of enjoy now, pay later. This might well be the lot of our friend Henry. Sidebar: Henry is a chocolate addict who can't control his chocolate addiction. But what it but is this what's really going on in these studies? Are some people wired to succeed and others to fail? One thing was clear from these studies. The ability to delay gratification did predict a large number of long term results. That part of the marshmallow research nobody was arguing about. However, for years, scientists continued to debate the cause of this strong effect. Did self control stem from an intractable personality characteristic or something more malleable and thus learnable? In 1965, Dr. Miskell collaborated on a study with Albert Bandura, who openly challenged the assumption that will was a fixed trait. Always a student of human learning, Bandura worked with Miskell to design an experiment to test the stability of subjects who had delayed gratification. In an experiment similar to the marshmallow studies, the two scholars observed fourth and fifth graders in similar circumstances. They placed children who had not demonstrated that they could delay gratification into contact with adult role models who knew how to delay. The greedy kids observed adults who put their heads down for a nap or who got up from the chair and engaged in some distracting activity. The original grabbers saw techniques for delaying gratification, and to everyone's delight, they followed suit. After a single exposure to an adult model, children who previously had delayed suddenly became stars of delaying. Even more interesting, in follow up studies conducted months later, the children who had learned to delay retained much of what they learned during the brief modeling session. So, what about those hardwired genetic traits or characteristics that had predicted so much? The answer to this is important question is good news to all of us, and most certainly offers hope to Henry, the chocolate addict. When Miskell took a closer look at individuals who routinely held out for the greater reward, he concluded that delayers are simply more skilled at avoiding short term temptations. They didn't merely avoid the temptation, they employed specific learnable techniques that kept their attention off what would be merely short term gratification and their long term goal of earning that second marshmallow. So maybe Henry can learn how to delay gratification if he learns tactics that will help him to do so. But will that be enough to transform him into the physically fit person he'd like to become? After all, he's not good at jogging or weightlifting either. In fact, he's horrible at all things athletic. Surely factors as hardwired as body type, lung capacity, and musculature are predictors of good athletic performance. Henry has no hope of ever becoming one of these chiseled hunks you see hanging out at the health clubs. Or does he?